What's going on, Theology fam? This is your girl Maya. We are here with a brand new episode with one of my girlies, one of my lifelong girlies. Miss Artiana, could you please introduce yourself to the theology audience today?
Yes, hi, I'm Artiana, Artie for short, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in the North Carolina area, just um, dedicated to just helping individuals and couples gain a better understanding of themselves, of their mental health, of the things that they're going through. And so I'm super excited to be here with my girlie Maya. I got my
Yes,
tea ready.
we're here on the Theology Podcast, period. I love it. She is affectionately called Auntie Artie in our household because we love her so much. How long have you been practicing now, sis?
It would be, I just hit 6 years. Yeah, I just hit 6 years.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Congratulations.
thank you.
So tell us about that journey. Just how did you know that this was going to be your line of work? Was there something that happened that kind of illuminated that this is the path that the career path you wanted? And how has the last 6 years of practicing been for you?
Yeah, so it's completely a God thing, honestly, because I originally went to college thinking I was going to be a communication science and disorders major. And as soon as I hit orientation and heard about all the science I would have to do, I quickly changed my mind. And I remember this point in orientation where I was standing in line for my major and I was just thinking, I don't want to do all of this science. Like, this does not sound appealing to me. And I just felt led by the Holy Spirit to hop out of line and go to this table. And it was human development and family science, which is like a different science for me that I really gravitated more towards. And I just signed up for the major on the spot. And it was just a beautiful thing. And I had some internships that happened after and like through my college journey that really solidified wanting to do marriage and family therapy. And the Lord has just been faithful through the process of all of that. And over the past 6 years, it's been a lot of like ups and downs, just kind of navigating the clientele I want to work with, trying to kind of find my niche in like where I want to be. But it's been a really rewarding journey, working with the clients that I have and just being able to see them think about life differently and being able to collaborate with them so that they can like live the life that they want to live. So I'm honored that the Lord chose me to be in this space, in this field, and He's blessed me with like the gift and tools to really hear people. I've always been a people person. I love people, and I love meeting them where they're at. So that's a big part of, I think, what the Lord gave me so that I can like extend that in this field.
Yeah, she definitely has that gifting. I already never met a stranger for real. Um,
For real.
Now, you said 6 years, so we're in 2026. So does that mean that you started practicing pre-pan, like right before pandemic? Is that where that is?
So it's such a funny story again of the Lord's faithfulness because
I can't
I
wait to hear this.
I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2020, the weekend that everybody went home. The same weekend everyone was sent home for this, unpredictable pandemic and virus was my move-in date. And so
Wow.
I moved in and at that time it was still very fresh because it was March 2020 just to be exact.
Yeah.
And it was very fresh. Not everyone knew what this looked like, and we didn't have a context for it. Everyone was just like, oh, we'll be home for 2 weeks and we'll go back to life as normal. And that was not the case.
Mm,
And I remember my mom freaking out because, they went back home and they're hearing all of this news about this pandemic.
mm.
And they're thinking, we just left our daughter in a city where she doesn't know anybody, she doesn't have a job, none of these things. This was a completely new thing.
Blessed.
And so, but it was a really precious time with the Lord and being on my own because this was my first kind of big girl move with no roommates, no family, and no job to start off with. But the Lord was faithful to provide me with two jobs in the midst of a pandemic, and I've been with them all 6 years. And
Yeah.
it's been a very fruitful journey and rewarding journey. And yeah, so it was. smack down at the start of the pandemic. And it was interesting kind of navigating entering into this career field in a way that it was virtual
Mm,
because all I knew was in person because in our practicum and in my grad school program, that was all that I knew. So I entered into this field kind of virtually. We met a few times like in person in the beginning when we were still trying to navigate like what this pandemic thing was, but navigating the virtual space and how to use Zoom and all of those factors and
yeah, yeah.
utilize it in a way that can be effective and not distracting was quite a journey, but it was a great journey all the less. So it definitely was a journey to say the least.
Yeah. Girl, you stuck with it. Good for you, girl. Amen. I feel like 2020 was such a shift for everybody, obviously, because we had never walked through that. At least in our lifetime, we had never walked through something like that. And I feel like for us that year as a collective people, we were all like, everyone needs mental health checkups right now because all of us are walking through. Are there like certain trends in care or things that you're seeing that have kind of been persistent over the last 6 years that maybe COVID uncovered that we were all kind of just thinking were normal ways of thinking and operating until a pandemic came and we're like, oh, actually, this is not normal. And even though we're out of the pandemic, I mean, we're still seeing a lot of like those issues that were uncovered still persisting. Are you seeing anything like that in your practice and that's interesting to you that you're like trying to walk your clients through?
Yeah, so there's kind of two things that stand out to me. I don't consistently work with kids. As I was navigating through those 6 years, I realized that I like couples a lot more, which are
Mhm.
very hard work, but I really enjoy it. It's really fulfilling for me. And then like older individuals trying to navigate life transitions. And I think one of the things I saw in the couple space was the pandemic either made you stronger or it broke you up. And so it was okay, now we don't have the space to be able to avoid the issues we haven't
Mm.
addressed. And there was a lot of sitting in that space with someone, but also recognizing that a lot of people weren't sitting with themselves. And so
Wow.
when you're in a couple space, it's like, okay, I haven't sat with myself and dealt with the issues that I have. And now I haven't sat with this other person who's in this space with me and the issues we have together collectively. So, for a lot of people, that was very overwhelming and a lot to deal with. So, I had a lot of couples during that time that came to see me and are trying to just navigate through some things that were unresolved that they couldn't no longer avoid and they
Mm.
had to address. And so, for some people, they were willing to address those things and recognize like their own kind of part in some of those issues. And for other people, I think you have to be ready to address those things, and some people weren't. And so that would lead to
Mm.
like more of a breakup. So
Mm.
it's just kind of those trends of, oh, like we really can't avoid this because we're both working from home, we're both stuck in this space, and
Mm.
we have to navigate this space together. Versus, pre-pandemic, you have the ability to go to work and come back home and you're only spending a few hours with this person and you miss them and you want to enjoy that
Mm.
time. And I think that made it easier to avoid because there was the time to miss each other and not be in each other's space. But then once the pandemic happened and you had no choice but to be in all up in each other's space, there
Yeah.
wasn't anything else you could do. And I remember one time a client was saying, the way he eats yogurt annoys me. And I was like, oh man,
Lord.
fix it, Lord.
Lord, that's
So,
so good. I wonder now,
mhm.
I'm like, okay, everything's quote unquote back to normal. I'm like, okay. But I mean, still some of us still work from home and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely an adjustment, like the proximity,
Yeah.
iron sharpening iron, low key, or just y'all setting each other on fire, whichever one it is.
Whichever one.
Now, Artie, you and I have had a lot of conversations around faith, just kind of shifting gears here. We actually
Mhm.
met in a small group. That's where we met, y'all. We used to go to church together back in the day. And I feel like it's getting better, but there still are a lot of misconceptions around mental health care when it comes to people in the church and people feeling like you have to choose between your faith practice and receiving mental health care. What are some of those misconceptions you've heard that you have the mic right now to to dispute those false claims, sister?
Yes, yes, I will take the mic gladly. Um, so when it comes to the misconceptions of mental health and faith, I, like you said, I believe that we're doing a little bit better, but some of the misconceptions are that you don't have enough faith, or you just need to spend more time with the Lord, or uh, trust in Him more, and just rejoice and like do all of these things that can become very like mechanical and
Mhm.
not really settle with a lot of people. So it can become like habitual and like you do those things, but it doesn't really reach like the depths of what's actually wrong. And I think there's this idea that mental health counseling like doesn't help because you have Jesus, or you don't need it because you have Jesus, and that He's more than enough. And yes, like Jesus is enough. He's everything. However, He has created us in our gifts to be able to help other people. And so I think it's recognizing the beauty of mental health counselors and how they can help people gain a better understanding of themselves and get a better perception of who they are, and the things that they're dealing with. And I think sometimes there is this tendency to avoid the things that like have been buried, or the things that we haven't really addressed, kind of like what I was talking about, like with the pandemic aspect.
Yeah.
And we don't acknowledge the things that have hurt us. There's typically this tendency to cover up those things or to not touch them,
Mm.
because the Lord has like redeemed you and saved you. And yes, He has. However, you also have to acknowledge those things that have brought pain and heartache, to your story and to who you are. And without acknowledging it, it can be kind of like a poison that can lead to depression and anxiety and all these different aspects. And there's also, I think, just like the biological component too, that's important to acknowledge, because I think there is often this debate between like faith and science, and not recognizing how like the Lord created all things, and science is a part of that. That's a part of our
Yeah.
understanding. And so just even when it comes to our biological composition, there are different factors to consider that are in play, as far as things that are passed down from generation to generation, things that we um, traumas that happen in our life that can completely rewire our brain chemistry and the things that we experience. And when we don't acknowledge those things, it's a disservice to us to be able to just go through the mechanics of, religious practices. Those are important and those are a part of the process, but we have to also acknowledge all of the other aspects of that. And when we don't, I think that leads to just people feeling heavier than they need to when we're made
Mm.
to feel light. And one of the things that I always say, like whenever it comes to this like debate, is, if you break your arm, you don't just say, Jesus, heal it. Like we can, and He is completely capable and He has the ability to. However, we go to the doctor and they
Mm.
help to put a cast on and do things to help in that way. And I think because we can see a broken arm, we feel like, oh, okay, like that's broken, it needs to be fixed. But because we can't see like broken emotions or broken brains in those
Mm.
different ways, we don't consider that part of like, oh, like that needs healing too. And you
Yeah.
can go to someone and experience healing in those ways too, with Jesus like alongside that, because they're not in competition with each other, like they're hand in hand with each other. And I
Right.
think that's what gets missed sometimes.
And she did that, period. Okay, now there has been, I don't know if you're on the TikTok streets at all, but there have been conversations around the capacity of a small group. So, like
Mhm.
In a lot of people's experience, which is great, like when
Mhm.
they first come to Christ, they get plugged in with their church, they start going to a small group, and their small group is like their first maybe experience in like an emotionally safe space. Like
Mhm.
people care what I say, people care what I'm going through, people want to hear about my life and they want to pray for me. And all of these things are good, right?
Right.
Um, but it is not the same as like therapy.
Yeah.
It's a great space. And one thing
Mhm.
about me, come to the church, come to small group, also go talk to that lady.
Yes. Immediately.
Immediately. So, I guess if you were giving guidance to a church or even a small group leader who is leading someone and they do have someone who starts to share some stuff that you're like, we don't have the capacity for this. We do not have the capacity.
Yeah.
What is some kind of steps that churches and just like spiritual communities can take to when it's like, all right, we've crossed the threshold of just life busyness, life transitions, and now we're dealing with a mental health challenge.
Right. Yeah. I feel part of it is one, just like talking about mental health. Like that's
Mm,
important, just to even vocalize and talk about it and let it be in your church spaces.
yeah.
Because sometimes like we don't, it's just like not talked about. And so I think that's important. And then when in a small group, like you mentioned, there's like the emotional safety that's created there and it feels like a sense of belonging. And those are like the needs that we have just like as human beings. And I think when you start to recognize that this is a little bit heavier than I have the capacity for, I have the understanding for, or I have like the scope for,
Mm,
it's being honest with that person and saying, hey, I really value that this is a safe space for you and that you want to share with me. And just gently being able to encourage them to seek additional help and trying to debunk the idea that like therapy is not for crazy people. Like I feel like that's such a misconception. It's like if you go to therapy, there's something wrong or there's like you're crazy, but it's like no, like therapy gives you a non-judgmental space to be able to talk through the things that you're going through from a
mm,
third party perspective that's not within your system of communication or people around you. And so, because people are going to be biased, like they can say they'll be unbiased, but if people love you, they're automatically biased towards you, and
yeah.
it's hard for them to see maybe or like give advice that challenges you maybe a little bit more than like a trained professional. And I think when it comes to a counselor or therapist, it's recognizing like they are trained professionals that can help you navigate certain things that your small group leader may not be able to do. And even if your small group leader is a therapist, they should not be your therapist.
Yeah.
You need a party, someone outside of your system of influence. So I think it's important to be able to handle that space with care and to gently encourage them to seek out additional help from a trained professional that can help them explore those dynamics that they're experiencing a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I am always like, okay, y'all. Once you say something a little, I'm like, okay, wait a minute now, because I'll give you mine. Now, I have one. I
Right.
will refer mine in a minute.
Yes.
Do you need to talk to somebody? Because I'll be yapping in there.
Yes.
And what you just said about the not being crazy thing, I am so an advocate for that because literally I just started going back to my therapist a few months ago. Not because anything is wrong. I was like, I feel actually pretty good, but I would like to remain feeling good. So
Right.
I'm going to her.
Yeah.
But even when we started talking, like she just started bringing stuff up, and I was like, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but now you're making me think about it, and I actually am still upset. Let's work through that.
Yeah. And that's such
So,
a good point because so many people will come to therapy because they just have been feeling a certain way and they
mm,
don't know how to name it or what it is. And sometimes they may not be feeling any way about anything, but they feel, it's a good idea. But then you start to ask questions and start to unpack some of the things about whether it's like their family dynamics, their friend dynamics, their
mhm.
environment, all of those different aspects. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize that was impacting me.
Mm,
I didn't realize there was a connection there. And it's because you went to a trained professional that's able to bring those connections and bring
yeah,
them to your awareness in a way that you're able to receive it.
that's good. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears a little bit here
All right.
because, well, still on the church vein, but
Mhm.
some people they come to church and praise be to Yahweh. They have a great emotional, safe experience. They feel loved. They feel belonging. And then some people, like you and I, have gone to a church and it was once a place of safety, but then some things get said and some things are done, and then we realize, oop, I am actually not safe here. Um,
Yeah.
I feel like that's what a lot of people are walking through. We're seeing a lot of people deconstruct, a lot of people reevaluate their beliefs because of, namely, church hurt.
Yeah.
What are some like ways that you're seeing that manifest even in your practice, and like how can someone work through some church hurt? Because that's to me low key traumatic when
Yeah.
because your spiritual experience is so like dear to you. To
Yeah.
have that like breached in a way is very off-putting, and it can be very imbalancing. So how do we work through that in a mental health lens, but also like even just bringing your faith practice into it if you want to feel comfortable talking about your
No, for
experience. How is it walking through church hurt with folks when it comes to their mental health journey?
Yeah, no. I'm going to talk from my personal experience and then kind of like help the people with
Help the
processing
people on today, Artie.
that. So for me, I think one of the things that my parents did very well in raising us was that they were very intentional of not having us put our hope in man. And
Mm,
so there was a season where we did not go to church for like a couple years because they had experienced church hurt. I was too young to understand that from just a kid perspective. I just knew that we stopped going to church. And so they kept taking us to the table and sitting down and having us read the Bible and really understanding like who God is. And I think that laid down the foundation for me of a church is not like where I put my hope in. It is a great
mhm,
place to build community, to have a sense of belonging and a sense of togetherness and connection, but that's not where my hope is. And so I was able to have that foundation so that when I went out on my own and was exploring like a church and trying to figure out like where I wanted to go and be and kind of call my community, I knew that this can be a safe place. And if it changes, my hope was never like in those people,
mhm,
because they're people at the end of the day, and people will disappoint us. That's just a part of life. And so I think when I went through my own kind of church hurt and having to walk through that, that foundation that was laid down for me really helped me to be able to process that. And so when it comes to being able to work through that, I think one is acknowledging the hurt, like acknowledging that it was hurtful, it sucked, it was not okay, and being able to give yourself the permission to feel that. Because sometimes I feel like we don't give ourselves the permission to feel
mm,
because we connect the church with God. And it feels like, okay, I can't feel that way about the church because it's connected to the Lord. But ultimately, like it's still, people are flawed.
yeah.
And so there's a sense of giving myself the permission to feel and then also holding the space for grace, because every person is capable of causing harm or hurt to someone. And it's just a matter of the situation or like what's going on or their understanding. So really
Mm,
being intentional of like, okay, that hurt me and that's still God's child. And I still have to like acknowledge that and like allow
mhm,
that to be. And then being not be letting bitterness grow in us, because it's very easy to be like, well, they hurt me, so I'm never going to try again. Like I'm never going to take that risk again. That is not what I ever want. I'll just be by myself. It'll just be me and the Lord. And so
mhm.
I think sometimes that can be like the opposite end of the pendulum, and like you
Yeah.
end up just like isolated. But isolated from people, even if you're not isolated from the Lord. And so I think it's being intentional, like in your prayer life and asking the Lord to send the right people, and
Yeah.
to be patient in that process because, good things take time and there's a part of you that may still need to be healed before he brings those people. And then there's a part of you that may still need to learn how to trust people again. And so I think it's important to have that time with the Lord, like after church has happened, but finding also the people around you that may not be a part of the church that like you can still feel that sense of like community and belonging and oneness. And I think being intentional in just like processing everything that's happened, because if you don't process it and you're just like, oh, well, it happened, like, and you just kind of move on. You may not even recognize how that church hurt is influencing like your next relationships
Mm.
and causing a sense of distrust or even creating a story that may not even be true. Because what one person did in this area in this season, if another person is doing something similar, that can trigger those feelings or emotions, then you're automatically like projecting maybe some of the things you experience in this one environment into your next. And so I think it's important to just acknowledge those things, not to dismiss them or to feel shame about them or to feel guilty about them, but to have someone trusted, a trained professional,
Exactly.
to help you like work through and process those things because we don't want to bleed on other people when we've been hurt by an entity, a person, an organization, a church, whatever it may be. And we don't go about our own healing. And yeah, and not being afraid to try community again because there's beauty in being in community and creating that safety. And also, one of the things that I was just kind of thinking about as I was talking is we are all people, we are all individuals, and we all grew up a certain way. We all think a certain different ways, and it's trying to make space for that difference and not always turn it into like this big battle between someone. Like there's a difference
Mhm.
between like psychological, physical, emotional harm and differences.
Oof.
And so I think we have to be intentional about that,
Keep
knowing those
keep talking
differences.
about that. Please keep talking about that.
Yeah. And so I think especially like in our world today, like there are so many like differences and so many different ways to be divided in different ways. But as believers, I think one of the things we have to recognize is that we are a body and we're supposed to operate as a body does.
Yes.
So I think when we allow differences to create division, it creates more hurt than necessary.
Mhm.
Because it's like, well, you're not thinking like I'm thinking, so we can't be friends or we can't be sisters or brothers in Christ anymore. And it's just like, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
We are going to have differences just as individuals. The Lord created us all differently with different opinions and things, and we just can't let that be like the hill that we die on certain things that aren't creating psychological, physical, or emotional harm to us.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
if there are those moments where there is that type of harm that's happening, and you do have to create that separation because someone's not stewarding that relationship well, and they are not handling it with the grace of Christ and like being intentional in that. But if there is a difference, I think it's being able to get to a point of agreeing to disagree. You may not think like I do, I may not think like you do, but at the end of the day, like, do we believe that Jesus came to this earth, lived a life, died and resurrected, and like that's the foundation of our faith? Then it's like, okay, well, like that's where the connection is, and we hold on to that and not allow differences to create a division that leads to unintended or unnecessary harm.
Yeah, that's so good. Come on, First Corinthians 12, period. No, I actually been thinking about that a lot. Just thinking about how our isolationism is just tearing us away from each other. It's really
Yes.
sad because I'm like,
Yeah.
we're created for each other. Like Paul talks about
Mhm.
like, when one part of the body suffers, we all suffer. When one
Right.
part feels joy, we all rejoice with it. And it's like it's silly to be like, I'm the ear, I'm better than you, and you're a foot. Like that, it's just
Right.
silly. We're all drinking from the same spirit, he says, which is such a good picture.
Yeah, and we'd be so boring if we were all the same. Like
Hello, we
if
can't
we
move
were
these
all ears,
elbows. We would be looking crazy,
look
looking crazy.
crazy.
And I like what you said about the differences because I feel like a lot of times people think unity means we all got to look the same.
Mm,
No, 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 no,
mm,
no, no, no. The only unifying thing about us should be Christ. Everybody else should look different.
mhm.
We're created in that unique way. That's so good. Wrapping it up here, I want to give you space to just kind of encourage anyone who is like feels as though maybe they have been burying some of that. They've been like feeling like it's disobedient to admit that they're not doing okay.
Mm, mhm.
And they're like, okay, I can bring this part of myself to God. Like they're recognizing that. How would you encourage that person?
Yeah, I believe that the Lord is the best person like to go to and like be vulnerable with. It's not a sin to have emotions, like even if it's with him. Like God created us with emotions, and if you really read your Bible, if you really read it,
Come on,
there's so
theologian.
many emotions that you experience throughout the Bible. There's
Literally.
anger, there's
Elijah wanted to
Elijah
die.
wanted to die. I literally was in First Kings today. So I was like, Elijah literally was like, take me. I am
Mhm.
done. They are coming after me. I am hungry. Like, and all he needed was a nap and food.
Period.
And even so, just bringing together the scientifical, biological part and like faith part, like that even goes to show, like when it comes to like the hierarchy of needs, like
Yes.
that physiological need needs to be done.
Yeah.
So there's the physiological,
Yes.
there's like the sense of belonging, like there's all the different parts of the hierarchy of needs. And so if you look at there, he needed a snack and a nap, and that would have sufficed. And
Yes.
so just being able to recognize that like um the Lord created us with emotions, the shortest Bible verse, Jesus wept. Like
Yes.
so he had emotions and he doesn't stray away from those. Like he created us and he knows what we feel, but there's a beauty in sharing that with him and
Mhm.
allowing him to sit with us in it. And so then kind of recognizing, okay, there's that part of connecting with the Lord, and then having his guidance to who can I connect with here that I can process those emotions with. And so I really encourage people, like when you're in the process of considering therapy, like praying, okay, Lord, like can you help me find a therapist? Because we were made to be dependent on the Lord, like truly, like
Yeah.
that is the whole reason for our being. And so, even in that process of looking for a therapist, it's including the Lord in the process because it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be separate. And so, it's like, Lord, like I'm really struggling with these emotions. I don't know what to do with them. Can you help me find a therapist? And actually, can you help me find the strength to be able to take that step? Because sometimes we can stray away, like in our weakness, but his grace is sufficient in our weakness. And when
Yeah.
we bring that to him and ask for strength, he gives it to us and helps direct our path towards who that person is. And I always encourage people, don't just go with the first therapist you see. Schedule a consultation, make sure you vibe well and you have discernment, like when meeting with someone,
Mm.
to just see if that's the right person instead of just like going with the first person you see or that's available, because you don't want to end up in a situation where it's like, oh, like this therapist saying crazy stuff. Because some people should not be therapists.
Come on. Not many of you should be teachers.
Mm.
Period.
False prophets, false teaching, false
Listen, they
therapists.
ain't just behind the pulpit. They
Listen, listen.
okay, we could keep going, but we gotta wrap up here. Fred, where can the people find you? All the things. Drop all the ways to find you, friend.
Yes. So right now I'm on a social media cleanse. And so, but
Amen.
I dedicated the whole year to just like not be on, but I do have a business page. It's called LMFT underscore Artie. And so you can follow me on there on Instagram. No content will be created until 2027 or posted till
I'll
2027.
tag her. Y'all just surprise her with a lot of followers when she get back on. Okay.
That'll be so great. But there will be more content in 2027. I just needed kind of a break and
I understand
just,
that.
yeah. So yeah.
For your mental health. Come on
Yes.
out today.
Yes. Oh, and then also just
Okay.
one little tag there. Me and two friends also have a podcast called
Yeah.
Anchor Pod. And so
Yay.
you can follow us on Instagram there. We're going to start back recording too. So that's another place you can follow us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Artie.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure sitting at the table with you.
Thank you.